My guest today is Shafi Siddiqui, Head of PR at Pakistan Steel Mills. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I want to ask you that you've worked at the steel mill now for a long time. When did you start?
I started my job in steel mill in January 1976 and working there for the last 33 years.
Amazing. Amazing to have been there for so long, although in a number of different departments. What are some of the departments you've worked in?
I started my job in sintering plant. Then I went to USSR for 1 year technical training, and I came back in 1977. Then I remained in sintering plant till 1986. In 1986, I joined R&D. This was very fascinating.
This is research and
development. I've been heading that department several times, and I stayed there for about 22 years. That is the longest period I have had.
It's a long period.
Steel mill.
But can I ask what the experience was like training in Russia? Because, I mean, in those days it was the USSR, and it was that very behind the Iron Curtain. What was that experience like?
Actually, it was very fascinating. It was very informative. People in Russia, they are very devoted. They are very laborious. I had the opportunity to work with them for 1 year in the very polluted area of steel mill, so in sintering plant. So it was very interesting because I just finished my studies and I went to USSR in April 76 and stayed there for 1 year. It was very interesting. I learned a lot.
And a lot of women work there, right?
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
About 53 or 54% women are working there in steel mill. It's a very hard, laborious job.
But that's why I'm so surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
How many women work at Pakistan Steel Mill? Not secretaries.
Yeah. I think 2-3%, not more than that.
Yikes. It's a low percentage.
In engineering capacity, there are other, I think not more than 1% in engineering capacity.
Yes. Now you mentioned research and development. That is something you have a genuine interest in.
Yeah.
And I think that's led you to some very interesting collaborations, in fact with other countries as well.
Yeah. Actually, I was trained in Finland in 1991. This was the place from where I got actual research training. Then I came back from Finland. We established a laboratory which is called Iron Ore and Sinter Laboratory. Previously, the characterization of iron ore coals, this was done abroad. Since 1991, when we started this laboratory, we are doing these research works indigenously. And after every 5 years, we are buying iron ore and coal from different countries. All these are characterized and they are tested in these laboratories. So we are saving a lot of foreign exchange in this regard. And
you're even trying to, of course, exploit local coal sources and make us more self-sufficient as much as possible.
Actually, when I was working in sintering plant, we are using some waste material like flue dust, mill scale, sludge. These are the waste which are generated during the process of iron and steel making. That has to be recycled. So this is a novel idea that all these waste should be used so that we can economize our process and pollution should be as less as possible. Then there was an idea that iron ore and coal, which are the major commodities, that should be locally used. So we started working on that in actually 1999, when General Sikandar Hayat was the chairman of steel mill. He gave us the assignment when I was heading R&D department that we should explore the possibility of using local iron ores, local coals. I and my team, we went to Balochistan, to Cheniot, Sargodha, Calabar, and a different part of the countries. We stayed there, we camped there. And after several years, we were able to establish through our laboratories that 15% of Dilband iron ore from Balochistan can be used in combination with the imported iron ore successfully. That is how we started. And after laboratory scales, we used this material at plant and successfully we produce pig iron and steel from that.
So it must feel good to be a part of something that, is developing local industry and getting us away from the need for foreign exchange and foreign imports.
You see, you must have heard that the prices of iron ore coal are sky high. They are getting higher and higher. So in that case, we have to explore our local resources. And alhamdulillah, we have also established that 7% of local coal from Sharik origin can also be used in combination with the imported coals for carbonization and coke making. Coke is a major commodity for iron and steel making. So we are spending billions of rupees on that. So that part covers from the Sharik coal. We are using now 7% of Sharik coal and we are just making coke, there is no problem. There is no problem of quality.
Right. Now, it's interesting you had spoken earlier about pollution, how you were trying to recycle and reuse materials as much as possible. Now, in this business of steel making, the idea of being environmentally conscious seems to be so diverse from your whole industry. How do you reconcile these two things?
Actually, the sinter plants is actually a very friendly and atmosphere friendly sort of plant. We recycle waste material like flue dust, mill scale, all these are very bad pollutants. So these particulates, they are collected from screw burrs, from dust catchers, from battery cyclones. They are the de-dusting devices. From there we collect these and we recycle them. Actually, this was built in by the Russian. When they gave us this plant, these anti-pollution devices were there, and we are using these since beginning. And now we are using this because there should be the atmosphere should be very friendly. There should be no pollution. We are the minimum in pollution. We are not doing that much of pollution.
That's good to hear, but hard to believe in this day and age where industry is just blind to what it does to the environment. So it's good to know there are procedures in place, as you say, from the time of inception.
We are using billions of tons of iron or coal in very fine shape. So 2 or 3% is in the form of dust. We are recycling this dust through sintering plant. So that is how we started our work in the very beginning.
I wanted to ask you, continuing our theme of environmental topic, you yourself are running an NGO called Pro Nature. What is the work that this NGO undertakes?
Actually, the idea of Pro Nature is that we have to inculcate the awareness among the masses about the environment. So our this forum goes to different areas, different institutions, starting from technical university, medical university, down to the primary level. And that is an environment-friendly program. We just create awareness among the masses about the pollution. So this is the theme of the Pro Nature.
Again, it's the contrast of the steel industry with the environmental NGO. It's a strange marriage of ideas.
It's not contrast because our work is related to environment. You see, sintering plant, as I said.
Yes.
It is very environment friendly. All the garbage which is generated elsewhere in the steel mill, this sintering plant is just grabbing it and putting it into a very useful. Yeah.
Yes.
So that is how we are doing work in this iron steel industry along with the environment.
And of course, being involved in the PR side of things, you have, of course, represented the Pakistan Steel Mill abroad at a number of conferences. What are some of the conferences?
I had about 21 technical papers based on environment, science and technology, on metallurgy, material, etc. So I represented Pakistan Steel on national and international levels. I have several books as well on environment. I think more than 10 books are based on environment alone. So that is how I work.
Yes, I mean, we're sitting here in front of all your books actually, and on a diverse range of topics. What are some of talk us through what we have here.
Yeah. I started my literary career with the poetry, ghazal. It was romantic poetry. I started with that. Moje Sham. This was the first publication in 1991. Then after 1 year, I published a book, Daricha Hai Diyare Khor, which is a travelogue of Finland and USSR. And then Khazine-e-Din Mubi. This was based on the poetry of Quranic verses, Surah Rahman, etc. So this was my third book. That is how I started. And now, Alhamdulillah, I am author of about 40 books.
That's incredible. How do you just find the time? It's hard to imagine with such an intense work day, and then do you settle down to write at the end of the day?
Yeah, whenever I try to write, I just start writing. I don't wait for anybody.
So it's just a flow of ideas.
Just flow of ideas. And normally I work on weekends or late night. So that is how I...
It must be very late night if you've written 40 books.
2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, or maybe sleepless nights.
And then early
sometime.
To work at the steel mill.
Yes, that is a must. No compromise on that.
Right.
I used to be in office 7:45 because the office starts at 8.
Right.
My PN and I, we always visit office 7:45 or like that.
At the same time?
Yeah.
We start work together. Right. So what do you think you would say has been your greatest challenge in your work environment?
For me, the major challenge was research and development, because that is the area which we lack. Unfortunately, Pakistan is not much focusing upon research, and we at Steel Mill, we are not much focusing on indigenization of minerals. Although we are using millions of tons of iron ore, coal and other minerals, unfortunately much has not been given to this sector. Now we at R&D, we made a humble start in 1999 when we first focused upon Dilband iron ore. Then we worked upon Sharig iron ore. And now we are working upon other minerals like limestone, dolomite of good quality, then manganese ore, quartzite, fluorite. All these minerals are important for iron and steel making. So we are now diversifying our research to these minerals as well.
Because what is Pakistan's current requirement for steel?
We have to have very good iron ore, which may have 60% or more iron in that. Unfortunately, Pakistan is not rich in that. The iron ore available in Naukundi, in Chinniyot, in Sargodha, in Balochistan is poor. We have about 38 or 40% of iron in that. So that iron ore cannot be used alone in iron making. We have to process it somehow, or we have to just blend it with the imported iron ore so that we get a sort of heavy combination of imported iron ore along with the indigenous material. In that we had a breakthrough, and we were able to establish that 15% of Dilband iron ore can be used. Similarly, iron ore from different areas can be used in that combination. And we are also trying to adopt the other methodology of iron making besides the blast furnace. Pakistan Steel, an integrated plant, is using blast furnace technology for iron production. We are making efforts to make pig iron directly from ores. That is called direct reduction process. So we are now focusing upon that so that we can eliminate coke oven or a very expensive area of sintering. We can directly reduce iron ore from ore to pig iron.
Because currently the steel industry is in a decline, right? So how do you see our way clear of that?
You see, it's a worldwide decline in the steel industry. Pakistan Steel is not an exception. But I can assure you that we have such potential that we will inshallah be successful in that. We are just trying to find out new resources for iron ore. We are trying to economize our processes. We are trying to squeeze our expenses. We are trying to train our engineers and technicians.
So basically efficiency.
Yeah, so that we can have the integrated efforts to produce steel of low cost, so that we will be competitive in the market.
Do we see the industry expanding at all? I mean, currently Pakistan has one steel mill.
Yeah. Actually, the demand of country is more than 5 million tons per year. Pakistan Steel is producing only 1.1 million tons. So there are efforts that Pakistan Steel will go into expansion stage, first at 1.5 million tons per year, then eventually to 5 million tons. So there are negotiations presently going on with Chinese, with German and with other foreigners for collaborative research, for collaborative sort of expansion program, so that we can go eventually to 5 million tons. That is our target. I hope we will be able to establish more steel mills in the country, so that we can meet the demand of the country, which is beyond 5 million now.
What about your job in the PR department? I mean, everybody needs steel, so I mean, what does your job precisely entail?
My prime job is to build up the image of steel mill, because steel mill is the only integrated plant in private or say government sector. This is the only steel mill which is starting from the stone or raw material to the finished product. It is very fascinating, very magic process that we produce shining, glowing steel from the rock or the mineral. So the image of steel mill should be very good, because people in steel mill, I assure you, our engineers, our workers, they are very dedicated.
Well, they must be if they're out there.
Otherwise,
like you say, it's a hard job. It's a physically challenging job.
People who are working in blast furnaces, people who are working at coke oven, which has so many carcinogenic compounds, which has so many notorious pollutants, people are facing hazards, but they are working there. I really salute them. They are very great people.
Absolutely, because it's a day in, day out struggle, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
And inshallah, we'll be successful soon. I hope so.
I hope so too. And you have a success story with Iran. Tell us about your success story with Iran.
Yeah. Actually, in 1995, I visited Iran with the idea that we should explore some more foreign resources, some more friendly countries for iron ore. So I went there. I stayed there for 1 month, and I visited Yazd, where Iranian have great source of iron ores, which is supplied to Isfahan Steel. Then I went to Isfahan Steel. It's a big steel mill, 2.2 million tons. I stayed there for 1 week. I met the management of Isfahan Steel. Then I brought with me some iron ore from different areas of Yazd, from their mine Baf and from Isfahan Steel.
And
I
you
saw
tested it here?
I tested in my laboratory, which was established at our R&D with the collaboration of Finnish expert. So we were able to establish that Iranian ore can be used from 15 to 20% along with the imported iron ore. That was again a very breakthrough. Then Iranian came all the way from there. Their ambassador came to Pakistan, met the Prime Minister, met President, and then we were able to have a long contact with Iran, and now Alhamdulillah, Iranian are supplying 20% of the entire share of the iron ore to Pakistan.
That's great. So when you go there, you must be like celebrated as chief
They
guest
celebrate.
over there.
Whenever you go there, they celebrate. Yeah. They are our friends.
Absolutely.
They have helped out in our very difficult time. There was a time when Chinese were sweeping iron ore and coal, etc. So it was very hard to work with India at that time. You see, the political situation was such that we were handicapped. We were in very trouble. So Iran helped us out all the way out in this regard, and they provided iron ore besides the contract, extra quantity, just to run the steel mill. And we are thankful to them.
Well, that's excellent. I'm glad you were successful, and I'm glad we have a good partnership with Iran.
Yeah.
And I'd like to thank you for being on 17 Minutes today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.